1974, the people of Cyprus had their country invaded.
The Turks have lost patience, have given up words in favor of war.
And now, almost 50 years later, the island is experiencing a second invasion. But these invaders don't want land, they don't want money or power. They aren't even Turks or Greeks or British. They're donkeys. Whoa.
These are the Cypriots. They've been here a long time.
I want to tell you about these donkeys, but first I want to thank today's sponsor who supported my trip to Cyprus and supports this channel generally. So thank you, Bright Cellars, for supporting. Bright Cellars is a company that sent me a box of wine. And this wasn't just any old random box of wine. This was a box of bottles of wine that were chosen for me based on a quiz that I took. And then my favorite part is that each of these bottles comes with an education card that provides serving and pairing tips. It gives some background on the wine, and it allows you to have a much more educated tasting experience. For me, wine becomes way better when you actually have a story behind it. You actually have an understanding of what's going on with the wine and what it pairs with and all of that. The cool thing is you can do this from the comfort of your couch. You don't have to go anywhere. Bright Cellars is all online, and again, they ship it to your house. And then you can rate and give feedback on the wines that you like to better hone the algorithm so they know what to send you. It's literally like the Spotify Discover tab, but for wine. Bright Cellars is so confident that you're going to be paired with the right wines because of this quiz and process that if you don't like the wine, they'll literally send you a replacement bottle in your next box. If you want to try this out, Bright Cellars is offering 60% off your first 4-bottle box. That's $38 for these 4 bottles. Not each, for the whole box, it's $38. There's a link in my description. Go click that link and take the quiz to get started and get 60% off your first box of Bright Cellars wine. Thank you, Bright Cellars, for supporting this work. And now let's get back to Cyprus to talk about donkeys. I'm in Cyprus and I am looking at a lot of donkeys. All over this island, there are tons of donkeys. They're just everywhere. These donkeys don't belong to anyone. They don't have a farm that they're working. They don't have a home besides the wild. They stop traffic. They're on the road. They just don't care. They just don't. They're just so stubborn, and they just sit there and they're just like, hey, cool, you're a car. Inevitably comes the question, what are these donkeys and how on earth did they get here? The answer to that question, like every other part of this series, has to do with the conflict.
Tanks of the Turkish army on the outskirts of Famagusta are about to complete their victory in Cyprus. They will take what they want of Cyprus by force of arms.
So we're now in episode 3 of this series, and hopefully you're familiar with the story of this island by now. To summarize, in 1974, the Turkish government invaded the northern part of Cyprus. In that process, all of the Greek Cypriots who lived in the north fled to safety in the south, and all of the Turkish Cypriots in the south fled to safety in the north. The Greek Cypriots who were up here fled and left their farms empty, their homes empty, their churches empty, but they didn't take the donkeys with them. There weren't that many at that point, but the donkeys started wandering the countryside, finding food, then they started mating, not having a natural predator of any kind, so they started proliferating. Classic invasive species type situation. So modern day Cyprus is a pretty advanced place, but not too long ago, these places were agrarian societies. For thousands of years, Cyprus has been the home to farming, to a serious amount of farming.
Wherever there is water and earth, there the Cypriot finds his food and livelihood.
Some of the best olive oil production on earth historically has happened here in Cyprus.
They've grown olives and all sorts of fruit in Cyprus for longer than anyone has written harsh history.
So I'm trying to read my lines, guys, for this video I'm making. So could you just sort of give me a minute? Could you give me a minute? Thanks.
These are the recently introduced John Deere 55 series.
Even in the 1970s, when tractors were normalized around the world, owning a tractor in Cyprus was actually very difficult. This was an island in the Middle East. It was difficult to import stuff here. So the farmers stuck to what they had been doing for literally thousands of years, using animals to do their farm work. Horses were expensive and not very abundant, and so donkeys were the answer. In 1974, when the Turks invaded the north, it was estimated that there were 2 donkeys on average for every farming household. And with 1/3 of the island's population being farmers, that means a lot of donkeys. Donkeys were the powerhouse that would help pull plows or run mills that would make olive oil. So after this mass exodus from the north, these donkeys were left abandoned, orphaned by the conflict. So, there's donkeys everywhere. Why is that a problem again? Is that a problem? Well, it wasn't a problem for a while until the donkeys proliferated so much that there ended up being thousands of them here in northern Cyprus. It started to become an issue when the donkeys started showing up to farms and pulling up all of the crops and eating them. It's like the revenge of the donkeys. They're like, you left us out to dry when it was wartime. We're coming back to get revenge. No, but seriously, this became like a real issue for the farmers in this region who were just like, I don't need wild donkeys messing with my crops. So the natural response for a lot of people was, why don't we just hunt these donkeys and just thin out the population by hunting them? But after one group of donkeys was found dead, there was a big backlash. And in fact, a backlash that brought Greek Cypriots and Turkish Cypriots together in an unlikely moment of collaboration and cooperation. Animal rights activists on both sides of the border got together and lobbied for a law that would make it illegal to kill donkeys, and in fact would come with a 7-year prison penalty if you kill the donkey. If you have a hard time understanding why these donkeys have protected status and why you'll go to jail for 7 years if you kill one, that's because you don't understand Cyprus's connection to donkeys, and neither did I. As well as being an integral part to the Cypriot agricultural economy for thousands of years, donkeys were also used as a status symbol. They were exchanged for land. And when the British occupied this island during World War II, they used donkeys to transport weapons and ammunition. Cleopatra used to bathe in donkey milk, which was like a very superstitious thing, and people still believe that it has some sort of medical properties, and so they make medicinal supplements out of donkey milk. The Cyprus donkey has been on this island for thousands of years, long before machines ever came along to replace their job, long before the borders shifted and divided this island. And yes, while it seems like there's a large number of these Cyprus donkeys here in the north, a recent survey found that there are only around 1,000, which is far less than the giant pandas in the world. It's less than the amount of black rhinos in the world, and it's less than the amount of the Sumatran orangutans in the world. So there are real reasons why these donkeys are being saved and why you'll go to jail if you kill one. There's simply not very many left in the world, which again feels a little bit hard to tell when you're here. But more than being endangered, I think the real reason why Cypriots, both Greek and Turk, are so protective of these animals is because they represent to them a time when this island wasn't split in two. A time when everyone here were just Cypriots. In the same way that these donkeys are not Greek donkeys or Turkish donkeys, they're just Cypriot donkeys. And yes, it's also because they're really cute. I mean, they are kind of beautiful animals. Like, I've never taken a moment to think about donkeys, look at them, but they are like really kind of striking animals.